see you guys in the dark.
I had blocked this story from my memory until my girlfriend reminded me of it a couple of days ago. I started dating my girlfriend at the end of my senior year, and before we started dating, I used multiple dating apps. In many of my dating app profiles, I had my Snapchat listed so that people could add me. This is important. Nothing led me to anything with the dating apps. I'd talk to people for a little bit, and eventually the conversation would die out. When I began dating my girlfriend, I had deleted the apps, but never deleted my account, meaning people could still see my profile and my Snapchat in it. I realized this after a few people would add me, but it didn't go anywhere because I'd tell them that I had a girlfriend. As you would imagine, the conversation would end there, but there was this one guy that added me. Let's call him Adam, and he asked me if I was available. Being straight, I was used to guys adding me, so I gave him the usual response. Sorry, I'm straight, and I have a girlfriend. I expected him to leave me alone, but he didn't. At first, the messages were normal. How was your day? What did you do today? Simple stuff like that. Being the nice guy that I am, I responded because I thought this guy just wanted to be my friend, and having a gay friend is okay with me. Then the messages got progressively more creepy. He started asking questions about my girlfriend, and not the basic questions. Questions like, do you guys have sex a lot? Or does she think that you're good in bed? I simply responded with, those are kind of personal questions, and I don't feel that it's right for me to share my dating business. Adam would always apologize and not talk to me for a few days. Then he would hit me up again and ask more creepy questions. I eventually told my girlfriend about the situation, and for those who don't know, my girlfriend is super sweet, but she is also very aggressively protective over me. So she adds this guy and basically tells him that he needs to leave me alone. Unfortunately, this enraged Adam, who responded with saying that I need to dump this bitch now because she is a cunt. Naturally, I defend my girlfriend and block Adam. Everything was cool for a week until another account added me. The guy's name was Tyler, and he was super chill. He was super nice to me and respected my relationship with my girlfriend. As the days go by, I start to notice that Tyler's vocabulary was very similar to Adam's. I wasn't sure about it, so I didn't make any assumptions that it was him. So I gave Tyler's snap to my girlfriend, who adds him to investigate. As soon as she adds Tyler's snap, Tyler flips out on her, which confirms that it is Adam. As soon as this realization is made, I blocked him again. From here, everything goes quiet from Adam for about a month. So I live in the suburbs of Chicago, and both my girlfriend and I live down the street from each other. So naturally, we do see each other a lot, and both our families are really good friends. On top of that, our families would also house sit or pet sit for each other. Anyway, a month goes by until I get a letter with no address or name on it, just my name on the front. I open it, and to my shock and horror, it is basically a love letter from Adam. The premise of the letter was basically him saying that he loves me and he wants me to run off with him. The letter also takes a very sexual turn halfway through, with him describing what he wants me to do to him, and him to do to me. At this moment, two horrifying realizations hit me. One is that he knows my address, and two, he dropped that letter off himself, meaning that he is in my town. I immediately call my girlfriend, who is equally as shocked as I am, and after consulting with my parents, we call the cops. Unfortunately, since I had blocked as well as removed Adam's social media information, and that letter had no return address, there was nothing that we could do about it. Day after day, letters would keep appearing in my mailbox until they also started appearing in my girlfriend's mailbox as well. Her letters were far worse than mine. Adam wrote of how much he hated her and how much he wanted to hurt her. He also stated many times of the ways that he would inflict pain onto her until she broke up with me. Like me, she took this to the cops, and again, they would do nothing about it. My girlfriend's family had plans to go to Hawaii for vacation, and I was up to house sit for them. The first couple of days went just fine, until around one or the last nights of the week. As per usual, I was over at their house, watching TV on the couch when the power went out. Mind you, it was around 1 a.m., and it was pitch black when those lights went out. The next few seconds were silent, when I heard a window smash from the office. To understand this more, let me give you the layout of the house. When you entered the front door to your left was the living room. Straight ahead was both the kitchen and stairs, and to the right was the office and dining room. On the upstairs level, as soon as you reached the top of the stairs, a bathroom was straight ahead, and my girlfriend's room was on the right, and the other bedrooms were on the left. Immediately I shot up, grabbed a kitchen knife, and ran upstairs to hide while a cop was called. I quickly got into my girlfriend's room and slipped into the closet. As soon as I was able to contact the operator, I heard the pounding of the intruder running up the steps. Thankfully, I had relayed all the information to the operator in time, who then stayed on the phone as we both remained quiet. The intruder took a left, and when he reached the top of the stairs, which gave more time for the cops to arrive, and for me to get ready just in case I needed to defend myself. A few minutes go by until I hear the intruder start walking towards my girlfriend's room. In the only few precious seconds that I had, I slipped out of the closet and positioned myself next to the door. As soon as he opened the door and started to enter the room, I took the kitchen knife and drove it into his shoulder. A young man screamed in pain as I heard a heavy metallic object make a loud thud. From there I bolted out of the house, where I was met by 4 squad cars and cops with their guns raised. I threw my hands up, shouting that he was upstairs in the right room. A few minutes go by, and the intruder was dragged out, still screaming in pain. With the siren lights flooding the streets, I got a glimpse of his face. It was Adam, and I was informed later by the officer that metallic thud was made by him dropping a handgun. Adam was from Texas and had traveled up to my state to be with me. He had rented a room at a local motel and would put letters in both my girlfriend's and my mailbox daily. He would do this in the early hours of the morning, which was confirmed by the security footage of the motel that he stayed at. That night, Adam had plans to kill my girlfriend and her family so that I would choose to be with him. He managed to pry open the power box, switch off the power to her house along with the neighboring houses, and broke in with the intent of her being there. Well, unfortunate for him, she was enjoying a tropical vacation. To be honest, I have no idea how this outcome would be different if they had not gone on vacation, and I'm grateful that I still have my girlfriend as well as her family alive. So Adam, please stay the fuck away from my girlfriend and me. It's summertime again. To be honest, I don't like staying at home during this season. My mom had always been nagging me to look for a summer job, which I really don't like. I've been studying the whole year, and now I'm going to tire myself to work again for the rest of the vacation. Come to think of it, I heard that my aunt has a wide, beautiful farm. According to Dad, Aunt Eliza is really good at taking care of it. Thus, the fruits of her labor had always been that bountiful. I decided to stay there for a while and chill. The best part of staying at my aunt's is that I get to see my pretty cousin, Mana. She's cute and all, but of course, she looks at me only as a cousin. The eldest, Johanna, treats me like a big bro. It's really cool staying here. The only thing I really wonder about Aunt's place is that the town is not as populated as the other province. I guess you could say people are moving and going to the nearest cities. Living in a province is indeed a tough thing, especially if you're like me, a city guy, who enjoys malls, bars, game rooms, and different establishments that are derived to be seen in a faraway town. Nevertheless, it's a good place. Since you came all the way from Manila, I guess that you could try out our new harvested tomatoes. They're really tasty, Uncle Fred said to me. Aunt Eliza quickly took them out of the basket, washed them, and then placed them well in a plate. As I munched on the first one, I quickly had the delicious taste of the tomato. It was juicy, and for some reason the taste was intoxicating. Mana and Johanna was laughing at me, and told me it was as if it was my first time eating a fresh tomato. I just smiled, and then continued eating. Early in the morning, I helped Uncle Fred cleaning the house, and tended the water buffaloes. I kept wondering, why do I feel as if I love helping them more than I do with my own parents? I guess Aunt Eliza is just that kind. I went with her and my cousins to go pick out the strawberries, potatoes, and soursop fruits. I thought Dad was just exaggerating, but it's really true. It's a whole lot. I told Aunt, and she just laughed at me. Mana and Johanna laughed with her, as they know it was some form of compliment for their hard work. Well, if you see, the land here is really nutritious. It's as if it was blessed by the heavens. You can see how it is a bit darker than the usual ones you walk on, right? My aunt replied. Yeah. We don't use too much fertilizer. We don't use the sprayers that aren't organic. It ruins the taste of the fruit and the crops. I believe you know what I mean. The strawberries around your place aren't as tasty as the ones here, she continued. That I have to agree. I mean, sometimes the strawberries are sappy. The apples are cotton, and such. I guess this is the reason why my aunt's crops aren't the same as the ones commercialized out there. Dad is once a farmer, and he himself told me that most farmers are now not always producing organic products anymore. I noticed none of them even got blighted. I continued and helped Aunt carry the heavy basket of soursop as we traversed the path to their house. All I can say is that it's a blessing, she replied, and then smiled at me. It's my 4th day when I decided to walk around the town by my own. Mama said that she's going to farm to remove the weeds while Johanna is busy studying for his upcoming college entrance exam. As I was walking to the road, going to the local market, I saw a few teenagers chatting on a run-down bench. I tried to wave at them and smiled. They smiled back, but I can see that they're wondering who the hell I am. I went near them and tried to make friends. My name's Diego. This is Mariana, Linda, Jason, and of course our fat friend Tony, said the oldest as they laughed at their friend. My name's Daniel. Daniel sparks up, I replied and started talking to them on the bench. I learned that they were born and raised in the province, and they were chatting about something pretty creepy. You're from the city, so you probably heard of it, Jason told me. About what, I wondered. Well, old people are rare here. We were once featured on the television and the radio stations, because this place rarely has any old people around. You said you're Tita Eliza's nephew. They still look so young, despite their age. Come to think of it, Jason's right. I never saw much old people around. I only saw people that were young and middle-aged. Yeah, which reminds me, where are the old people around? Are they taken to the home of the aged or something, I asked. And then I roamed my questioning eyes to each of them. That's what we're chatting before you came. They just disappear, Mariana had answered. She had a gloomy mood after what she said. Disappeared? Yeah, you see, they just do. We tried to ask the local police and the town sentries to look for them, but they were unsuccessful. It became a tradition. The old people accepted that they would just disappear and die along the way without getting buried. Diego had continued to explain. I just chuckled, shook my head in disbelief. This story they're telling me is pretty ridiculous. I know it's hard to believe, but you can ask the local police for the records. Tony had dared me. I was rather unbelieving, but Tony had a very concerning look. I just never had the chance to see a province that would just accept their death as disappearance and such. Weird. I wonder why Aunt Eliza wants to live in this place. I went back full of questions in my head, but at least I got a few new friends out of it. They were younger than me, though. Ah, how was your stroll? My aunt had asked. She was washing the dishes as I entered the lounge and joined my cousins and Uncle Fred. I made friends with some teenagers around town, though. What they were saying is unbelievable, I answered. Unbelievable, huh? Asked Johan. Well, one of them said that there was no old people around here because they went missing. I noticed most people here are younger or middle-aged like Aunt Eliza. Both Aunt and Uncle looked at each other. My cousins had too. After a while, my Uncle Fred laughed it out. They just want to scare you. It was a rumor going around. But really they are buried in the cemetery, that's for sure, he said afterwards. Yeah, just don't mind them. I'm sure that they convinced you with their serious faces. Johan seconded. After that, the idea never got into my head again. It's my last day before going back home to the city. Aunt Eliza invited me to the local fair market with the whole family, but I said that I'll be here for a few hours and just follow them afterwards. The curiosity got into me. I went to their farm, and tried to marvel at the crops. It was just so abundant. I looked at the soil, and my aunt was right. I can see that the soil is not abused with any kind of fertilizer that might ruin the taste of the crop. Chicken dung, a few moringa leaves, and compost were the only ones that I see mixed into the soil. What's this? Cat hair, I murmured, as I noticed that there were a few hair strands along the soil that I just held. I tried singing it out, and I noticed that the hair is long for any kind of animal, especially the ones that I see in the whole town. I took the lighter into my pocket and started blazing it. A familiar smell had entered my system. Human hair. A chill went down my spine, made me tremble for a moment, but I'm sure this is just my aunt's hair that probably fell out. To convince myself of the case, I tried wandering my eyes, but I was rather countered by what I saw. There were more of those hairs I just saw. It was mixed into the soil. I went back to the house. I grabbed a shovel, went back to the farm, and I started digging. It was not just some kind of a joke. This is reality. It was not a deep one, but I saw human bones and wormed flesh. I tried digging on the other parts of the farm, and more I was convinced that I thought of it what was happening. The missing people are used as a fertilizer. I tried to compose myself and fix what I dug. I went back to the house and called the local police. Police station. Hello. Hello, I just want to confirm. Is it true that you have a long list of missing people here? Normally old age, I asked. I don't know if the officer noticed my not-so-composed voice. Oh, another journalist? Well, yeah, we've got around 40 already. Who knows? Next year it may be 50. I would just want to report where you can find those missing people, I said, without any hesitation. What? Are you serious? What do you mean by that? The officer had asked. Curious and based from his tone, he wants to know pretty quickly. Just come. I was not able to continue what I was about to say when my aunt and her whole family stood on the door looking at me. She was holding a basket of tomatoes. Oh, so you're still here, Daniel. I thought you might like our freshly picked tomatoes. We went to the farm just now before going back here, said my Uncle Fred. This is by far the weirdest experience I have ever had. This is a long post, so bear with me. When I was 6 years old, I had a neighborhood friend named Trevor who was way older than me. Like 6 years older than me, to be exact. I always thought of him like the older brother I never had. My sister was about his age, but she always thought he was weird, so she never hung out with him. In fact, I realized no one in the neighborhood really liked to be around him, but for some reason, I did. Maybe it was because I felt bad that he had no friends, or just for the fact he treated me so nicely like his little sister. I would always tell him, "You're like a brother I wish I had." And he'd reply, "We're more than that." At first I thought he meant best friends, but it turned out it meant something more. About a year later, my sister and I moved with my mom to my grandparents' home because my parents were struggling with their marriage and needed to take a break. That break lasted for about 2 whole years, until my parents finally decided that things were okay between them and we moved back into my old house. When I returned, the kids in the neighborhood were gone, but there was one familiar face I recognized, Trevor. I remember being so excited to see him, and I ran to hug him, but he placed his hand in front of himself as if to halt me. I stopped and felt confused. I thought maybe he didn't recognize me, because I was now 10 years old, taller, and my hair was much longer. I began telling him that it was me, and that I was back, and that I missed him so much. He looked at me with anger plastered on his face and said something like, "Why did you leave me?" I don't know if things could ever be the same again. I tried explaining to him what happened, but he would interrupt me with, "You're a bad liar. I know you ran off with someone else." I was even more confused and promised him I didn't. At the time, I never thought anything weird about it, because I was so young and just really wanted my friend back. He wouldn't talk to me for a few days, until he finally forgave me. We continued our adventures and played together like old times. But there were some things that did change. Trevor was now a freshman in high school, and he would always bring up stuff he learned in health class, like the male and female anatomy. He would show me pictures of a penis and vagina that was from his textbook and would teach me about them. I kind of knew what they were, but had no idea what a penis looked like. And no offense, men, but I thought it was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I would tell him I didn't want to see those pictures anymore, but he kept saying that I needed to learn for later on. Later, he would begin telling me about sexual intercourse and how it was done. I was really annoyed and let him know that by raising my voice to him, he finally stopped schooling me and things went back to normal. Fast forward 2 years. I was 12 years old now and in 6th grade. I felt so mature and like a woman now that I had hit puberty. I made a lot of new friends, but they were just school friends. I would always come to see Trevor, who was now 17. I was beginning to notice how strange he was when he kept wanting to play house with me. I didn't want to because I felt too mature to play childish games anymore. He would always beg me to play one last time, so I gave in. He asked me if I had started my cycle yet, and since we knew each other for so long and was comfortable with him, I told him yes. He would continue to ask me strange questions about if I had pubic hair and what size bra I wore. I would fake laugh it off and tell him that it was too nosy. So we were about to play our usual house when he decided to change things up by pretending that we were a couple about to get married. He made us dress up in formal attire and literally did everything that happened at a wedding. He even had fake rings to go along with it and sealed our marriage with a peck on the cheek. And whenever I tried to take the ring off, he would get mad and tell me that it was a gift and that it would be rude of me not to wear it every day. I kept the ring on around him, but would take it off whenever I wasn't. Months went by, and I continued to notice how much weirder Trevor was, and I especially noticed how much more sexual he had become. I even had to ask him to leave my 13th birthday party because of how sexual he was acting with my other friends. Plus, he would constantly tell them that I was his wife, and we had rings to prove it. I would tell them that it was our friendship ring, to which he was irritated by. Months later, I came home from school and was surprised to discover a bouquet of flowers and a card on top of my dresser. In the card read something like, "Happy anniversary. Can't believe it's been a year already. Yours truly, Trevor." I was so annoyed that he still played out the "we were married" fantasy. I was mad at my parents for letting him into my room without my permission. My parents told me that they never let him into my room. In fact, they never even saw him. I was creeped out. I would try my best to avoid Trevor and tell him that I had a lot of homework. When we did hang out, he would make me feel uncomfortable with his comments, and he always tried to make me feel guilty for not getting him an anniversary gift. I got even more creeped out when he would say, "You know, you never really got to finish our wedding yet. We still have our honeymoon left." His creepiness got to the point where he could call me at ungodly hours in the night to tell me how much he appreciated me, or just to say hello. I ended up ignoring his calls and put my phone on silent. Once I did that, he would literally show up at my bedroom window and tap on it until I would wake up. My sister would sometimes hear him and would tell him to go away if he didn't want her to call the cops. He stopped coming around, or at least I thought he did. I would start to notice things in my room not the way they were before. For example, my bed covers would be messed up when I knew for a fact that I made my bed before I left for school. The decorations in my room would be placed in different locations or would vanish. I blamed my sister for those things, but she swore it wasn't her. Things got even more strange with Trevor, and I no longer enjoyed his presence anymore. But one day, everything changed, and I never saw him again. It was like he vanished. One day he was a creep, and the next he was just gone. I asked my parents if they knew where he had gone, and they said that he left to go live with his uncle or something in Illinois. I was so relieved to know he was out of my life. As years passed and I graduated high school, I never saw Trevor. I would sometimes see his mom outside, but she would never make eye contact with me. In fact, I noticed that she looked kind of nervous when she saw me. I never really knew Trevor's mom. She was always in her room when I would go to their house. I barely could get a full sentence out of her. Trevor always said she was super shy. I visited home for summer after finishing my first year of college. I was extremely happy to be home in my old room, which was basically a guest room now that I was gone. I was going through old stuff of mine my mom had packed into boxes when I noticed the ring that Trevor had given me. I picked it up and showed it to my mom, telling her about the odd time Trevor made me marry him, etc., and how weird that he left without saying goodbye when he was mad at me for leaving all those years ago. He was such a hypocrite, I said. When I mentioned him, the look of concern was apparent on her face. I asked her what was wrong, and that was when she told me the truth about what happened to Trevor. Apparently, while we were all asleep, my father woke up to some noise. He waved it off as my sister, or me just using the restroom or something, and tried going back to sleep. Then he began hearing different noises. He said it sounded like someone was crying. He thought one of us was having a nightmare and got up to go check on us. He goes to check on my sister when he noticed the sound was coming from my bedroom. He was using his cell phone as light, and when he was close enough to see into my whole room, what he saw shocked and angered him. There, in all of his naked glory, was Trevor staring down at me as I slept. Those weren't cries my dad heard. Those were Trevor's moans from him touching himself. My dad says, "What the fuck?" and begins marching closer to my room, but Trevor hears him and runs out of there. By this time, my mom was awake because she wanted to know what was going on. My dad told her to stay inside while he went to Trevor's house to beat the life out of him. Of course he didn't. His mom begged him not to and said that it wasn't his fault and that he had a mental illness. Apparently, Trevor kept repeating that he and I were married and that he was just trying to consummate our marriage. That really sickened and pissed my dad off. My dad threatened him by saying if he ever saw his face again, that he would kill him. And from that day on, we never saw him again. To this day, I still do not know where he went. Hopefully, his mom got him some help, because he definitely needed it after what I experienced and from what my mom told me. It gives me the shivers and really disturbs me. So Trevor, let's not meet, and I want a divorce. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night, and I'll see you next time.